Hello and welcome back, and today I want to talk about another IP camera. Today we are looking at the Annke NC400. It's a PoE bullet camera, but with one slight difference. It's one of the newer generation of cameras from then that has enhanced vision at night, taking advantage of something they called Ace True Color Night Vision. Again, this is something that we've seen in a lot more modern IP cameras in the last year or two. But what's really interesting is the fact that it's coming at a camera that's about 100 quid, so about $120, $130 over there in the US. Now, this PoE camera, meaning Power over Ethernet, is another camera that we're going to be utilising with QNAP and Synology NAS systems. Indeed, we've got a Synology right here, the DS920 Plus, and we will be testing this camera in surveillance station very, very soon. We've also got a DVA video coming soon where we're going to be using a bank of cameras, including this one. But today's video is going to come in two parts. We've got the hardware bit, and then later in today's video, again, we're going to be switching this camera on, connecting it into a PoE switch. I've got slightly here off shot, and we're going to have a little look about the software that Annke do provide with this. And the next video will be the one we look at NAS. But why should you care about this? Well, for a start, bullet cameras, particularly external bullet cameras like this one that are IP67, generally knock around for a lot more than this. A lot of the features inside this, although it's not like a 4K camera and it's a Super HD camera, it's still at that price tag pretty impressive indeed. If we have a look inside, we've got the drill template for the wall, kind of boring stuff there. You've got the big 24-hour surveillance sticker, which is a bit meh. We've got a first time installation manual information there. Pretty much all in English, that one. There's not too many different languages there on that one. There's lots of online resources too. We've got the external bracket there to go around the IP connection there, the LAN connection. Also got the drill bits there for putting it in the wall. And then we've got the camera itself. Now, the camera itself, if we have a little look and get it out of there, we've got the little silicon packet thing. The box is quite nice, actually. I didn't comment on the box. Normally, Annke products, and you've seen them in the background of a number of my videos, they're pretty drab boxes, so I actually quite like that one. It's nice to see something with a little bit more display that you'd find in a shop on the high street. So the camera itself looks like that. We've got the sensor there built into the front. Now, a few things about this camera straight off the bat. Although it is supported in NAS, it is arguable that this camera, unlike a lot of the cameras from Annke that we talked about on the channel, this one's more suited towards a pre-existing NVR. So whether you're using an Annke or a third-party OnViv supported network video recorder with like drives and software and pan-tilt zoom control, or you're using a network attached storage device like this camera is going to be great for that, because this is a camera that doesn't have an SD card slot and doesn't have a direct cloud storage option as well. A lot of the cameras we've talked about in the past either have a little SD card slot tucked in the back there for localized recording that you can then pair with the third-party or first-party software, or they arrive with cloud support and utilizing the Wi-Fi in your home to, transmit some of those recordings or alerts. This has neither of those, and it's, on the one hand, that can be good and bad for some. The fact that it's purely going to be used next to a pre-existing NVR, I think some users are going to be slightly put off, because of this camera's affordable nature. A lot of home users are probably going to take advantage of this as an external camera in their home. And the fact that it's PoE, so again, PoE over standard Cat 5e Ethernet there, and the lights aren't going crazy there in the background. PoE switches are really, really affordable now. You can get PoE switches for like less than 100 quid, and these can be like 5 and 8 port switches as well. I think an affordable external PoE camera certainly has a place, and it's one that you can wire in very, very easily with these nice weatherproof cat cables that you get. But the fact that buying this is largely going to make you have to buy an NVR, I think is slightly counter to the price tag for some, and may in some cases make people understand how this camera still knocks around for 120 odd quid. I mentioned that Super HD stuff earlier on. It supports up to 20 frames per second at 2560 times 1440 resolution, so that's above 1080p there, which is quite nice. The fact that it doesn't support 4K is a bit of a blow for some, particularly given that it supports this WDR external light source there. A lot of the footage we've seen online from them, a lot of the online resources show about the flicking between daylight and then nighttime with this camera, and how it super brings back those colours in a way that normal, traditional, and particularly budget night vision cameras, although they've got that range of, I believe, 100 feet or 30 metres, they don't really bring through, and it can come across very grainy at a distance, and therefore make it very, very difficult to see people's faces, car registrations, that sort of thing. And the fact this is included in this at that price is pretty good. I mentioned IP67, which means, again, it's going to be waterproof, not completely waterproof, you don't dip it in a bucket, but standard rain, none of that's going to get in there. And again, that little photosensitivity, that light and photosensitivity center there, still pretty impressive. Again, normally this kind of tech I've seen on cameras, you know, 250, and of course once you get up to the big guys like Axis and stuff, then you're really spending the money. Another feature on a software level in this, and we will move over to the software portion of this video in just a moment, it's worth highlighting this records in both H.264 and H.265. Many cameras forcing you to opt for one or the other, and the differing compression techniques there can give you much longer recording times as well. So without further ado, let's get this connected. Let's get that there. See how it goes. I believe I have an Ethernet cable ready. So again, I've got a switch over here ready. So let's get you connected in. It's that straightforward. If ever you've used an power over Ethernet camera, you can get away with a standard Cat 5e cable like this. These are not even a quid per meter. Get that connected in there, and straight away, the light there activating there on the front for distance there, particularly at night time, that will power down in a moment because we're in quite a well lit room here. And what I'm going to do is give it just a moment to power up, and then I'm going to use the software, log into the camera so we can have some idea about just how good the resolution on this is going to be. So I'm all logged in, I've got the camera connected, I've logged into the main software now. It was mentioning a few things that I like and dislike early doors right now. Almost certainly while you're hearing this, my voice is going to be ever so slightly out of sync with what you see on screen. So I'll either resync my voice with what you see on screen, or I'll keep my voice as it is, but then the actions I perform will be visible on screen. But I'm going to be utilising both the desktop and the mobile application. I'm screen recording right now. So if I go in and take care of that, hopefully that will be on screen at some point. But first, let's look at the desktop user interface here. So while I'm talking, I'm looking at the camera there, and I'm sure you can see that on screen, all of that all in real time. So the user interface is pretty basic, if I'm honest. The kind of user interface you see there isn't really as good as what we've seen from some of the NAS brands. That's the QNAP here on another screen that I'm going to be utilising for this test. And indeed, it is a step up from the Reolink software that I've used in previous videos that's browser based. I will also add that Annke do have quite a few downloads, but I will say they could maybe do a better job staying on top of a number of these bits of software, because they're a bit all over the place. And if you try to use like Annke site, for example, as you can see, Annke site here, the IP that I'm utilizing, I've checked it both on the original router and how it's listed locally on a connected switch. And if I have a look at it in here, you can see from the IP at the top, it's 168.1.109. So if I go into that tool, 192.168.1.109, as you see, we can try and play that camera. We're not really getting a vast amount here. We can modify the camera as well. There's the IP there. We'll give it its password, which I think was admin and admin. So we'll go ahead and see if we can reactivate that camera. The software itself I found not quite as responsive as I might have liked, if I'm honest. The user interface you're seeing here on the browser is probably the smoothest I've seen so far. As you can see, there's the majority of the room. I've got lights on above us. There's lights just behind the camera as well. Unfortunately, we do have quite a lot of light here at the moment. It's a time of the year when it's quite bright. So even if we do try to play with those WDR super light settings, if we switch them on, for example, right there's so much light in the room, you're not really going to notice the difference. And now if I do disable that And then what I'll do is I'll go around and switch some lights off. We can get maybe a better understanding. So, turning off some of my studio lights. Disabling the main light. I mean, the camera is already doing quite a good job of adjusting to this light threshold right now. It's not hugely dark, but it's dark enough where I'm right now that what I'm seeing on the screen isn't really indicative of what I'm seeing in the room. It's definitely brighter on that screen than it is in the room right now. If we enable WDR, for example, so we enable that, this will enhance the color in that light. So you can see now the colors have been brought to the forefront, and then for the details can be seen a little bit more. And again, if we whack that down, you can see what I mean about those colors being brought out and the distinctions between them. There's HLC as well, so we can enable most of these, and of course that's going to be kind of the opposite of what we've seen, so you can only really use one or the other. But if we go back into the WDR view there, we can ramp that up a little bit if we want to. There's a good degree of control there. And the settings, it's not the most intuitive user interface I've seen. I definitely prefer controlling these devices via a NAS. But, I mean, one thing I think Annke could really work on is changing their list of available software. I don't think it's hugely smooth. I do prefer, if I'm honest, the mobile app. I think the mobile app does a much better job overall. I'll go into some of those settings, which leads me on to the IP scanning. I don't think this software does a good enough job telling you where it is on the network. So I had to use the advanced IP scanning software here. This is a third-party tool. And then I had to go through my own switch and find the device on the local area network. There's two cameras. There's a Rio link here, and we've got the Annke right there. But I had to go into it manually to find it. And none of the software readily available from Annke themselves, I think, did a very good job of explaining that to me. And I think a lot that could have been handled a little bit better with showing me at least browser-based access, how to find the camera a great deal better. There wasn't really a client app, or even in this desktop client app that we're seeing down here, I couldn't just scan the local area network and find cameras. It didn't give me that option. If we look a little bit into the background options, we can see quite a lot of information about the software, but the level of control for this camera is going to be a little bit more limited because it's not a PTZ camera. So, for example, obviously all of the pan tilt zoom functionality is out there. It doesn't have an optical zoom. We can play with the focus and some of the lighting settings, but again, most of those features aren't really going to be widely available here. And again, I'm not sure about this whole pixel counter thing. I'm not 100% sure who that's for. We can, again, take screenshots. They're saved locally to your machine. You know, it's all fair and well, quite normal stuff. We can change, if we like, the screen resolution to widescreen, 16:9, 4:5, 4:3 even. All the usual sort of stuff. And again, quite normal options. The configuration options are pretty good, it has to be said. If I go into the back end here, change lots of information about the cameras, update the firmware, change the dates. You can play with some of the settings as well to make sure that certain the lighting settings and some of that enhanced color stuff kicks in at certain times of day. Again, I think this is a camera that's going to do remarkably well with a NAS, but the software itself, I think, feels a little dated and I think could be a little better. It has the options I expect, but it doesn't really have anything that's going to sort of blow you away there. And in particular, when just trying to set this device up, not having a cohesive list of available apps, like you can try and download all of these or use the mobile apps, and I will switch on to the mobile app in a moment. I just feel like the software side of Annke kind of sells short the software the tiniest bit. Now, if we look at the audio video there, we can do an area where you want to have certain areas of focus. So if we want to go for the area there and have that as a separate area, a region to check with on, so we can click that there. That allows us to add that. And the same thing goes, we can change the stream on that, and then you can go into other video settings and photo settings if you want to take photos, or again enable a privacy mask, something that I'm very surprised by, where you can just do that, save that, and then that area, not hugely useful, is available to you. And again, audio video, we can go back into the video settings there and change a lot of the resolution. Again, we're already up to the high setting that we can really play with, but after that we can go down if we like, and then increase some of that frame rate if we choose, depending on some of the higher settings we choose. And again, you can change the stream, so when you're on the live view settings, you can flick between these, and of course we can flick between those different encoding levels that we've discussed already. But again, it's the software itself is very rudimentary in the extreme, and I feel that as good as the camera is, the software seems to really lack, firstly, in a polished GUI, but two, a very conducive and easy means to take advantage of this. There's my privacy box right there. So I'll leave that there for now. Let's go into the mobile app. I'll just quickly disable my face privacy box of doom. Let's get rid of that. A few other settings there as well that I didn't even look into. There's some fun ones there for us to play with that display setting from what we see on camera. But for now, let's make our way back into the mobile application and have a look at the user interface there. Now, as mentioned, there are several different applications available from Annke, and much like we saw on the desktop side there, the cohesion of it and the following of it isn't quite as straightforward as I quite like it to be. If we go into the Play Center and look up the company of the app, we can see they've done 2 apps there, even though on the desktop earlier on we saw there was at least 4 or 5 different Annke apps there. Now, I've installed the core one there, Annke Vision. So if we make our way into it there, we can load up the app. I've already logged in and I've already added the camera, as you've seen. And this feels a little bit more organic. You can add cameras, remove cameras, you can play with the dates and the times. You can make your way into different camera views, and you can check on and add more cameras as you go, dotted around your home or business environment. If you go into the camera device, you've got there at the bottom right of the screen, you can see if I look at it there. And again, that camera you can maximize into it. If you've got multiple camera feeds, you can chuck them in there. You can have sub streams fed into those other ones, change the recording quality if you choose. And again, 2-way microphone. So again, if you're using a camera with a mic, you can enable it right now, but unfortunately this camera not featuring 2-way audio. It's more of a show off of the app than anything. Take a photo locally. And that takes us a photo that's saved locally to my device. We can have a look at the other options as well. There's a few more just along the bottom. Everything to do with if there was pan tilt zoom control there, we could play with it. All the kind of different options there, but unfortunately this camera doesn't support a lot of those functions. If we go into the settings menu, we can change a lot more about the login information for the camera, but that's really about it. There's not a huge amount for you to play with here. And one thing I will highlight is you can't enable a lot of the additional lighting and color settings that you could see there on the desktop. So, this isn't a terrible app if you just want to get some cameras dotted around, but this only goes forward to highlight that I think this is a camera that will do so much better once we integrate it into a NAS environment. And although it is a very affordable external PoE camera, and I do like the enhanced light and color modes that are built into the additional sensor on this camera, for now I would definitely hold out for my review when I start to talk about this camera in a NAS environment, because right now I think this is definitely a camera that's worth maybe 80 odd quid, but whether it can hit, where you in the US or whatever, $120, $140, I think the jury's still out for me on this. As an external PoE camera, very nice, but the software's a little rudimentary for my tastes, and I do think it could do a lot more. And I think there's a lot of maybe presentation that Annke could work on with regards to their applications, finding the camera online, and more. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I know as reviews go, it's been a touch meandering, but it's very hard to show a lot of these features off. If you've enjoyed the video, do visit the review in the description to this camera. We'll go into a lot more detail about some of the internal hardware sensors. There we go. We've actually enabled the tricky light sensor. Let's see if we can enable that extra layer of Let's go into it there, into the display settings, and that light is now activated. WDR is there, so we can see that additional light that's been picked up is still pretty cool indeed, that it's managing to find a lot more in the background. And again, we can play with that a great deal more and really enhance what it can see. And it's nice that we've been able to get that into the video there at the end, but still, nonetheless, I do think this camera could give more in a NAS environment. I'll be very interested to see how much of this WDR stuff is featured there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.